Russia has been at war with Ukraine for 4 years already. Strikes on Vladimir Zelenskyy? None. Meanwhile, Israel and the United States eliminate the leadership of Iran in a matter of minutes. The main question Russians ask is, why are they allowed to, but we aren't? Most Russians are convinced they cannot defeat Ukraine not because they are weak, but because they are not allowed to. Simply because they are Russian. And in this picture of the world, strange as it may sound, there is a grain of truth. Just think about it. If Vladimir Putin had moved the army into Ukraine in 2014, right after Crimea, what would have happened? But for some reason, he didn't. This isn't about military strength or technology, not about tactics or strategy, not even about intelligence. It's a mystical prohibition, like Jews being forbidden to eat pork. Or is it something else? Inside every truly Russian person, there lives a kind of childish resentment. It's the feeling you get when you want ice cream and your mom says no, since 1945. Who exactly the mom is today doesn't really matter. The mom could be Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Xi Jinping, or the entire progressive humanity combined. It doesn't matter. The point is, you are not allowed. End of story. Putin once managed to ride this wave and even became president. Remember his slogan, Russia is rising from its knees. He promised everyone ice cream, I mean greatness. He promised the people that Kiev would be taken in 3 days. So where is it? Meanwhile, Zelensky is alive, just like his generals. But Ali Khamenei is dead. Joined Hassan Nasrallah and Yahya Sinwar. In Russia, there is outrage. Where is Antonio Gutierrez? Where is the United Nations? Where are the sanctions against the United States? Or at least against Israel? And here you want to ask, why don't you impose sanctions yourselves? Putin's press secretary explained it simply. There is not our method. So Russia ends up supporting Iran with likes. Some people are already celebrating victory, an Iranian victory, which, logically speaking, makes sense. If the government in Iran hasn't changed, then the Iranians must still be winning, as Putin himself said. No requests for help have been received so far. Makes you want to ask, did you at least check your spam folder? After living in Switzerland for several years, I realized something. This mystical "you are not allowed" literally wraps itself around you the moment you pass Russian border control at the airport. Let me tell you a personal story. This was before the war. Ayelet was buying an apartment in St. Petersburg. At the bank, they needed to enter her citizenship. The employer looks at the system and says, Switzerland, we don't have such a country in our system. What do you mean you don't have it? What do you have? We have Israel. Let's put Israel. Ayelet whispers to me, is that because you are Jewish? Anti-Semitism? No, I say, it's not anti-Semitism. It's idiocy, Russian idiocy. So Israel turned out to be the country closest to Switzerland. Not geographically, culturally. And they were even respectful to us. They could have suggested Tajikistan. By Russian standards, that would be worse because Tajiks are allowed even less than Russians. But Jews are allowed everything. At least that's what anti-Semitic acquaintances told me since childhood. Sometimes quite convincingly. Go ahead, Ariel. You will figure it out. And you? Well, I'm just a Russian Ivan. Where could I go with a face like mine? The funny thing is that Russian Ivan actually had more brains than I did. But explaining things like that is pointless. And this is where it gets interesting. Because there is one small nation that has far more prohibitions than Russians. Yet that nation somehow lives with the mentality of people who are allowed. That nation is the Jews. And it seems strange at first. Their religion is absolutely packed with prohibitions, far more than in Orthodoxy. I am not just talking about pork, or shrimp, or rare steak. By the letter of the law, Jews are practically forbidden to do anything. Look at Judaism. At first glance, it's all restrictions. Life is complicated. For example, on Saturday, you are not only forbidden to work, you can't even use electricity. People can't lock their apartment and put the key in their pocket. Forbidden. But they need to. So they improvise. They invented the roof. It's basically a wire stretched around a neighborhood. Suddenly the whole neighborhood becomes one big shared hallway. And now you're allowed to carry things in your pockets. During World War I, Russian counterintelligence discovered such a roof near the front line. The enterprising Jews who just wanted to carry keys in their pockets were accused of spying for Kaiser Germany. And what is the result? You get a people trained to bypass obstacles. Even the stupidest one. A mentality of people who are allowed. For a Yelet, that was already too much. The Swiss, as you know, are honest people. And here Jews are tricking God over trivial things, carrying keys in their pockets. I tried to explain. Imagine you are God. You want to know whether the Jews truly love you. If you only give them commandments that are beneficial, doubts remain. Not killing and not stealing is good for society anyway, right? Right. But what if you give them something completely absurd? Something that doesn't make life easier, but harder? Sounds like God is a bit of a woman, wants madness as proof of love. You are thinking in the right direction, except it's not God who is a bit of a woman, it's the Jewish people. Circumcising all men. You know what that is? I think I can guess. Exactly. Consummation of marriage. In Christianity, people are God's children. In Judaism, humanity is his wife, an adult partner. In Jewish tradition, God doesn't practically value obedience. Obedient wives are boring. Have you heard the story from the Talmud? 5 rabbis argue about a law. One disagrees. 4 support it. The one who disagrees says, "If I'm right, let thunder strike." Boom! Thunder strikes. Nobody cares. He tries again. "If I'm right, let there be an earthquake." Boom! The ground shakes. Nobody cares. Finally he cries, "God, tell them I'm right." A voice from heaven answers, "He's right." And the rabbis reply, "Hey, why are you interfering? You are not a rabbi. You don't get a vote." God laughs. "Bravo! My children have out-argued me." Curtain. Because sometimes it doesn't matter who is right. What matters is the willingness to take responsibility. In that sense, Judaism and Russian Orthodoxy are complete opposite. For centuries, Russians have been raised with the idea that nothing depends on them. The message is simple. Christ suffered, so we should suffer too. Why? So nobody ever tries to overthrow the Tsar. It's a completely different cultural code. Today it looks like this. The general is stupid and doesn't know how to fight. Perfect. Soldiers won't follow him. Loyalty to the regime is guaranteed. In Russia, initiative is punishable, especially among soldiers. Perhaps that's why instead of combat training, the army used to make soldiers clean toilets, paint grass toxic green, and carve perfectly square snowdrifts. The result? People ready to carry out the stupidest orders without thinking about losses. And that has advantages. Russia has already lost roughly 1 million people in 4 years of war. They could lose 10 million more and not notice. That's not a bug, that's a feature. To be fair, the Russian army today has unique combat experience. And it's not afraid of losses at all. But let's be honest, the soldiers would really prefer those losses to be high up, the chain of command. Things have reached the point where the most hardcore Russian patriots now envy not the United States, not even Israel. They envy Iran. Do you know why? Because in Iran, the supreme leader and the generals were killed. Now the Iranians will get a new leader, younger, someone who at least knows how to use the internet. And new generals, younger ones. Generals without huge bellies. Soldiers at the front say it directly. How the hell is he supposed to fuck the enemy if he can't even fuck his own wife properly? If that humor sounds strange to you, remember the speeches of their leader, Putin, his joke about raping Ukraine. Like it or not, my beauty, you will have to take it. That's not a joke. That's Russian reality. Can't have sex with a woman? Fine, at least watch and fantasize. And I saw all this building up with my own eyes. In 2001, during the September 11 attacks, I was in school, 16 years old. The teacher told us about the attacks in the USA. Back then, the times were almost vegetarian. Peace, friendship, chewing gum. Putin even called George Bush to express condolences. Russia had terrorist attacks too, Islamist ones. And what do you think? Did the class express sympathy for the Americans? Of course not. Some people openly said, "Great! Finally the Americans got what they deserved." There was this dull Russian question hanging in the air. Why are the Americans like that? Sounds strange. Let me translate. It means, who allowed the Americans to live well? I asked my own question, a non-Russian question, to the girl celebrating the loudest. What exactly are you happy about? People died, sure. But what do you personally gain from that? Do you think terrorists see you as any better than the people in the Twin Towers? She froze. Then she said, I'm not happy. Only a horrible Jew like you could be happy about something like that. Just so there are no illusions. She wasn't an anti-Semite. She was perfectly fine with Jews. Believe me, I know the difference. The problem wasn't her. The problem was me. I was thinking too much like a Jew, not Russian enough. The Russian soul demands justice, equality. And if not everyone can live well, then nobody should. Here is another story. A man prays to God for $1 million. God offers him a deal. I'll give you what you want, but your neighbor will receive twice as much. The man thinks for a moment. Oh Lord, gouge out one of my eyes. Feel the folk wisdom. That's how dreams come true. That's real happiness. You have probably heard about mobilized soldiers who receive draft notices without the proper stamp or signature. These people go to the recruitment office and demand justice. They demand the correct stamp, the correct signature. They don't ask, they demand. And once the document is stamped properly, they happily go off to war. After all, justice has been restored. That's the famous Russian reward, senseless and merciless. They get down on their knees and reward. And the picture I'm coloring in is barge holders on the Volga.